Welcome, everyone. Look, if you're here right now, it means you're looking for answers. You want to get straight to the core of complex issues without the fluff. So, in this explainer, we're going to unpack a deeply psychological and honestly kind of invisible phenomenon that literally destroys companies from the inside out. We're talking about the hidden breakdown caused by toxic work environments. More specifically, what happens when a workplace stops focusing on, well, actual work and becomes completely obsessed with monitoring people. Let's dive right into this.
Workplaces where people quit often have someone who monitors people instead of doing their job. Man, that is a profound opening premise, isn't it? When we see these massive exoduses from companies, people leaving in droves, we usually look for these grand structural reasons. We blame the market, we blame the product. But the source material we're analyzing today points to something way more insidious. It shows us that the true root cause of organizational collapse is often found in an environment where certain individuals have basically decided their main job isn't to contribute to the mission at all, but just to scrutinize and evaluate the personalities of their peers.
So let's move into our first major concept. Section 1. The toxic air. Invisible poison in the workplace.
Now, when an organization really starts to fracture and fall apart, the gut instinct for most analysts or executives is to point a finger at business strategy. They talk about performance issues or, missing those quarterly targets. But our source reveals a much darker reality. The actual catalyst for the breakdown? It's not the strategy, it's the literal air of the workplace. It happens when someone makes a mistake, and instead of the team stepping up to fix the process, someone immediately starts attacking the character of the person who made the error. The whole conversation violently shifts from, how do we fix this, to what on earth is wrong with you?
And the crazy part is, it rarely starts with screaming or shouting. No, it starts with these little microaggressions, little comments like, why can't you do this? Or anyone would know this, or the absolute classic, read the room. Now first, maybe people awkwardly laugh these off, right? Maybe in a meeting, in the team chat, or at after-work drinks. But let me tell you, the person on the receiving end, they don't forget. These verbal jabs slowly accumulate over time. They act like an invisible poison. Sure, they don't leave a physical mark, but they fundamentally alter the entire atmosphere of the room.
So, what exactly happens to the human mind when it's forced to breathe in this toxic air every single day? That brings us to Section 2. From work to defense, the psychological shift.
Our source provides a fascinating, but honestly pretty heartbreaking look at the psychological progression of an employee trapped in this kind of environment. And it notes that this is especially devastating for neurodivergent individuals, who often have a really acute sensitivity to subtle shifts in tone and relationships. Here's how it plays out. Step 1, you literally feel the temperature drop in the room. You think to yourself, okay, the mood just turned against me. Step 2, you realize you're no longer seen as a collaborator, you are viewed as an enemy. And then Step 3, you enter this state where you anticipate being denied or rejected before you even open your mouth to speak. Notice that the real damage here isn't just coming from the specific words being said, it's coming from the fundamental fracturing of the relationship itself.
The ultimate consequence of all this? It's absolutely devastating. Think about it. When you are constantly reading the room just to see if you're hated, your brain fundamentally reallocates its resources. Employees completely stop using their cognitive energy to actually produce results or innovate or solve problems. Instead, literally 100% of their mental bandwidth goes straight towards survival. They start calculating every single move. How do I say this so I don't get attacked? How do I behave so I stay off their radar? They aren't working anymore. They are just defending themselves. And under these conditions, it absolutely does not matter how incredibly capable or talented someone is. Eventually, they will break.
But that begs the question, right? Why do managers keep perpetuating this kind of environment? To understand that, we have to look at Section 3, the twisted justice, the mind of the monitor.
This is perhaps the most tragic irony highlighted in our source material, the actual mindset of the person doing the monitoring. See, in their own mind, they're like a knight in shining armor out to improve the organization. To them, constantly pointing out flaws, that equals justice. Surveilling employees? That's just management. Applying intense pressure? That's guidance. And because they genuinely believe they are acting righteously, they simply will not stop. But the reality is entirely different, and frankly, it's a little absurd. They aren't managing a business at all. They are simply curating a little kingdom that allows them to maintain the ego trip of feeling like a boss.
Now, to really grasp how damaging that is, we have to define what the exact opposite looks like. A truly strong organization is absolutely not a place where everyone is perfectly polished and constantly terrified of stepping a toe out of line. As the source clearly notes, a strong organization is an environment where even clumsy, awkward, or slightly out-of-sync individuals feel completely safe.
They know for a fact their colleagues are not their enemies. And it's precisely that sense of psychological safety that allows them to unlock their full potential and truly perform at their best. People only demonstrate what they're truly capable of when they feel secure.
So, what is the inevitable organizational consequence of this surveillance culture? It leads us directly to Section 4, the best leave first, the silent exodus.
Organizations with these strong monitoring cultures suffer from a very specific, very lethal type of brain drain. The most capable, highly talented people, they're always the first to leave. Why? Well, because their high competence means they're also highly perceptive. On day 1, they instantly detect the toxic air. It's obvious to them. By month 3, their analytical minds process the environment and they conclude, definitively, yeah, there is no future for me here. And then, by month 6, you start to see the silent exodus. They don't make a big scene. They don't try to fix the toxic manager because they already know the manager's logic is totally twisted. No, they just quietly pack up their exceptional skills and walk right out the door.
So, who's actually left behind once all that top talent silently exits? The workforce gets reduced to just 2 groups. Slice 1, the monitors, who are still busy playing their twisted little game of justice. And Slice 2, the people who have been completely conditioned and broken down into accepting being monitored. That's it. That's the whole shebang. That is the entire company. It literally ceases to be an organization that does real work and devolves into a hollow space dedicated solely to maintaining the illusion of management.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to pivot a bit and address you directly with our final section. Section 5. Question your environment.
I want you to ask yourself these questions. Do you experience literal heart palpitations just thinking about your commute to work? Do you feel a sudden spike of absolute dread or fear when you hear the specific notification chime of Slack or Microsoft Teams? Does your stomach physically drop or ache when a specific person's name pops up on your screen? These are not metaphors. These are visceral, intense, physical reactions to your environment.
And if you are experiencing this right now, the source material is explicitly clear. This is not your fault. Let me say that again. This is not a sign of your weakness, and it is absolutely not a lack of professional ability. Do not tell yourself you just need to work harder or grow a thicker skin. These physical symptoms are a completely normal human physiological response to the prolonged feeling that your very existence in that space is hated. You are breaking down not because you lack talent, but because you are being treated like an enemy.
Which leaves us with this final, absolutely essential question to ask yourself about the environment where you spend so much of your waking life. Is your workplace a space designed for producing actual results, or has it devolved into a theater for monitoring personalities? If it's the latter, remember that a true workplace is meant for output, not character assassination. Challenge your environment, protect your psychological resources, and never, ever accept a toxic air as normal. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this provided you with the clarity and structure to see your own workplace with new eyes. Keep learning, stay focused, and please, take care of yourselves.